Hello and welcome back. Today we're talking about AWS Lambda, by far one of the most popular and famous AWS services. Lambda is a serverless event-driven compute service that allows us to run code without provisioning or managing any servers whatsoever. Very exciting. Let's have a look at it in action. So we're going to look at the classic use case of when we have an application that needs to resize images. Here we have an S3 bucket, which is part of application. A user uploads the image and that will make our application run and do its thing. And our application, for example, in this case, can be sitting on an EC2 instance, which is AKA our server. And that's where our code is living, the code of our application. So whenever something gets uploaded to an S3 bucket, this code goes and fetches that image and resizes it. So that's all nice and great, but what happens if we get more users at the same time uploading images? Maybe our instance and our code can handle 2, 3, 4, or 5 users uploading images at the same time. What about 100 users uploading images at the same time? Well, in that case, we would need something like an auto-scaling group and elastic load balance in the background, scaling this whole system up to meet the demand. But what if that goes up to 200 users or 200 as much images being uploaded? Well, again, it will need to scale respectively. What if that goes back down to 0? What if there's a point in time for like a few hours or a few days when nobody is uploading? Well, we'll have to get rid of those extra servers, and then but we will still have to keep at least one in case somebody comes and uploads an image. So it can get quite tricky. It's all definitely doable, and for many use cases you want to use EC2, you want to use servers, you want to use an elastic load balancer, and you want to use an auto-scaling group. For example, if you're hosting a website, that's a great way of doing it. You host a website and then on an EC2 instance or a fleet of EC2 instances. But for simple things like scaling images, for things that need to be done one-off, there has to be a better solution. And that's where AWS Lambda comes in. With Lambda, you just write a Lambda function and you put your code in there. And a Lambda function, basically, or Lambda supports lots of different programming languages from Node.js to Python, Java, Go, Ruby, .NET, and others. And what happens is you write your code and you don't have to worry about any infrastructure. It's considered a function as a service. So you've written your code and it'll just sit there. It won't incur any charges. You won't need to pay for any servers until that code is invoked. And the way it happens is as follows. So once again, a user uploads an image to your S3 bucket, and that triggers your Lambda function. Your Lambda function spins up or gets invoked. It resizes the image and then goes back to sleep, so to speak. So you are only charged based on the number of requests that are invoked and based on the duration of those requests. So if 2 users or 2 images are uploaded at the same time, then just the Lambda function will be invoked twice. If 1 million images are uploaded at the same time, your Lambda function will be invoked 1 million times. No problems. All the scaling, all the servers, all those issues are handled by Amazon in the background, and you don't have to worry about them at all. So that's how this all works. It's a very popular service because it does allow you to focus specifically on writing your code and creating these great applications and not having to worry about anything that's happening with the underlying infrastructure. So when you're on the exam, look out for things like event-driven, because Lambda is event-driven. It's not continuously running. It's only invoked or triggered when a specified event occurs. So look out for event-driven, serverless, cost-effective compute, and without having to manage infrastructure or function as a service. And most likely your answer will be AWS Lambda. Here's a quick summary of what we discussed. I look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, enjoy the cloud.